Greetings once again. This is Ray Mofield, and the old history microphone is making a visit. Today we're in Marshall County, not very far from Aurora. What's the name of this road, Miss Nellie?
Well, you know, I don't even know. Do you, Judy?
Union Ridge
Yeah.
Church Road, and we're not very far down that road, and we're visiting at the home of Raymond and Nellie Mathis. And we're going to talk to Miss Nellie mostly, but we may bring in some other people. I was given this lead by a fellow named John Mark Roberts. Did you ever hear of him?
Sure, I've heard of him.
Well, who is he?
Well, he's Brother Hayward Roberts' son.
And who's Brother Haywood Roberts?
Well, he's a pastor of the Scotts Grove Baptist Church and lives in Callaway County.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's sitting right over here because he directed me out here. I don't know whether he wants to say anything or not. Do you, John Mark? You want to come over here and say a word to Miss Nellie before we really get started questioning her?
Do you want me to move over?
Why don't you just sit right over there by the side of her?
Yeah.
And he's got a story he wants you to tell, so at the proper time we'll ask him to come in and say something. Actually, I knew who he was. He's in one of my classes at Murray State. Do you think he's a pretty good fellow?
Oh, I think he's wonderful.
Well,
yes, I do. I think he's
I'm
wonderful.
glad to hear it. I'd hate to report to the preacher that he'd been cutting up, throwing paper wads and so on, wouldn't you?
I sure would, yes. I sure would hate to hear that.
Okay. All right, now let's get away from that much foolishness. I'd like to ask you if you were born in this area.
Yes, I was born right here in Marshall County.
How long ago was that, Miss Nellie?
Well, that's been 84 years ago in September.
And your father's name was?
George Jones.
George Jones. Now that sounds like a country singer to me.
Yes, it does, but he wasn't no singer, though. I don't think.
different individual.
Yes, that's right.
And
yeah.
Who was your mother?
Well, she was Nettie Payton.
P-E-Y-T-O-N?
Uh-huh.
Payton.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know there were any Paytons in this part of the world. There are a lot of them around Heath, I remember.
Well, now I don't know for sure, but I believe she was born there. But they lived here, right close to here at one time, I guess, when her and my daddy married. But then my granddaddy moved back down to La Center, and that's where he lived when he died, whenever I remembered him, at La Center.
Did you have any brothers and sisters?
Well, I had 4 brothers that died at, some of them, 3 of them at infants, and the other one was about 3 years old. I was the only one that was raised, the girl, only one that was raised in the family.
Well, that's good for us and for you, of course.
Well,
we're sorry that happened to them.
Yes, well, I've been by myself, you might say, in the world. I ain't, of course, not by myself either, but I just never had no brothers and sisters, like lots of other people. But,
do you remember, perchance, any of your grandparents?
Yes, I remember my grandpa Payton, my mother's daddy. Yes, I remember him as the only one.
Yeah. All right, you were born then in this general area, and where would that have sent you to school?
Well, to the little Union Ridge School.
Mm-hmm.
A one-room schoolhouse.
Right now they're rebuilding a one-room school on the grounds at Marshall County High School. It's the old Griggstown School, and they're asking for donations on that, and they've done real well. I've been by to see it twice. They're trying to preserve that era so that our young people will know what it was like when you went to school.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the recitation desk up at the front. They've got a slate blackboard.
Yeah.
They've got, the only thing that looks different to the one I attended is that they do have electric lights in it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, of course, we didn't have no electric lights in them days when I went to school.
No.
No.
Although this school did have, by the way, electric lights before it closed. It operated through the year 1956. Of course, they'd already wired many of those buildings by that time.
Yeah.
But I hope you get a chance to go see that and bring back many memories.
Well, yes, I'd like to see it.
They've got a water bucket in it and a dipper.
Yeah.
And the cloakroom on one side for the boys and the other side for the girls.
Well, we had I guess you'd call it a coolerator out at and we had a cistern and a house built around it and had our coolerator out on the outside, you know, and where it had a faucet, you know, and everybody took their cups when I went to school. I can't remember having a bucket and dipper going to school, but we all had drinking cups, you know, and then everyone would just drink to himself, you know, that way. That's the way when I went to school was.
Well, they'd sanitized it a bit.
Yes, they did. I guess I don't remember ever having no water bucket and dipper when I went to school. It was always like that.
Do you happen to remember any of the teachers that you had?
Oh, yes. My first teacher was John Gillihan.
John Gillihan.
Uh-huh. Did you ever hear tell of him, didn't you?
I've heard the name.
Yeah. I think he didn't, he just died a few years ago, I think. But then later on, let's see, I don't know if I could remember the next. Yeah, Robert Henson was my next teacher. And I don't know if I could remember.
Say you're just doing real well. Now
Well,
you have a school group here, and that was made at Union Ridge?
Yes, that was made at that schoolhouse, and that was my dear teacher, Miss Nina White, at that time, which was Miss Nina McWaters, you know, married.
Well, that's Rayburn Watkins's aunt, I believe it was.
Well, I don't know about that, but that's her first school in 1911.
Well, I remember her very well. She was a member of our Southern Harmony Song Society, and she went to Washington with us one time when we sang at the White House and the Capitol, and we stayed a week.
Well,
Had a real good time.
yeah.
She lived till, what, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes, she ain't been dead too many years, and yeah, she was a mighty good teacher.
Now show me your picture on there.
Well, I'm right there.
Oh, you were good looking, weren't you?
No, I don't think I was much good looking. and there by me is my cousin, Reba Fawn. I don't know if you know her or not. Lives, let's see.
Can you identify? If you can identify others, well, just go right ahead.
Yeah, and me and her, they always said was look like twins. We don't look much like it there, but a lot of people said they didn't know how our mothers told us apart when we was smaller, you know.
I think you favor a lot,
And,
but she's got ribbons in her hair. And
well, you know, I have too, but it's light, and you don't show there. I've got ribbon too, but mine is light. I guess hers was darker, you know, and showed more. And about a year's difference in her age. I'm about a year older than her, but everybody thought we was almost alike. And, well, I don't know.
They must have been expecting the photographer. Those boys are dressed up and wearing coats and neckties.
Yes, you know, they always told us, you know, maybe the day before, you know, to come kind of dressed up, you know. Of course, we didn't have many clothes in them days and times, and we'd have to wash our dresses, you know, and wear them 2 or 3 times a week, maybe, you know, to go be clean, you know. But that day is.
And you didn't have drip dry.
No, we didn't. No, but they always told us, you know, so we could kind of come a little fixed up more, you know, when we was going to have our picture made. Yeah.
Very good. Well, now we've got you in school. Tell us what a typical day was like. You went to school about 8 o'clock in the morning, and then one teacher taught all those?
All day, yeah, till 4 o'clock, yeah, in the afternoon. And, you know, I never did like to go to school. I wished I could get sick and wouldn't have to go to school. Ain't that awful?
Well, it is.
Yeah,
You'd think.
but I didn't get sick too many times. I had to go to school.
Well, I
Well,
guess I must have been the laziest hound dog that ever lived, because I wanted to go to school so bad I cried to go.
Well,
And
I
that
know.
is to get out of work. See?
Why, yes, I guess so.
If I stayed at home, I had to sucker tobacco, worm tobacco. Did you ever do that?
Yes, I done that. Later on in my later years, but I didn't have to do that then when I was going to school.
How do you like to kill those big hornworms about as long as my finger and about that big around? They're going...
and spit on you. They'd spit on you,
Yeah, they'll spit on you.
I've hammered a many of them. Went in the tobacco barns, after they'd cut tobacco, my daddy would, and the next hung the tobacco up, and the next day then them big worms would be fell off down there, and just get great lot of them, and I don't know what all I'd do to them, make them hit on them, I guess, and make them spit on me and like that,
Oh, yeah, we didn't have much spray in those days. Sometimes we'd take when it was kind of small, my dad would sprinkle Paris green on it.
Yeah, my daddy had a spray, that he'd somehow or another would, I can't tell how to remember.
It was a little bellis-like.
Yes, it was, and two little handles, and you'd put them together that way, and spray. He sprayed their tobacco some, but not no great big lot, though, but he has sprayed some, back then. But most time we'd just go along and catch them,
When you suckered and wormed and so on, there was an aromatic kind of gum that got all over you.
Oh, yes.
Terrible to get off.
I mean, it was, yeah.
If you hadn't had Grandma's lye soap,
you couldn't have got it off.
Never made it, would you?
No, you wouldn't.
Did you ever make any lye soap?
Oh, yes, I've made a lot of it. Yeah, where the kind you cut out, now there's a kind that my mother made, older and older. She'd drip, my daddy made the ash hoppers in the winter and put the ashes in it when he took them out of the fireplace. And then in the spring, while they put water, they covered them up and keep them from getting wet. And then in the spring, they poured water on that and dripped down lye, and put it in a big wooden barrel. And then put your soap grease, your cracklings from where you killed hogs, and you save them and put them in that barrel and then drip that lye down and put it in there and stirred it. And of course they eat up all of that and made just a jelly-like, soap. And then you'd have to put it out into some kind of a little bucket or something. Put it by the side of your tub, when you had your washboard. You'd rub a little of that on your washboard or your clothes where it was really dirty and rub, But I never made none of that kind. But I did the other, after later on, made it where in a wash kettle, and cook it and then cut it out in cakes, or bars, you might call it.
I've helped my mother make that kind.
Yeah.
She went to the store and bought Mary War
Lye
can.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, that's what you made that out of.
But now your parents made their own homemade lye.
Yeah, my mother made that. And you know what I'd do? I'd play when they were in the spring. I'd get me a can, of course, a fish can. They call them oyster cans or fish cans in them days. Just a little old can, and I would make me a little hole in the bottom of it, and I'd put a few ashes. Of course, that wasn't, but a handful or two in that, and I'd make me a little board and set that on it and dig a little hole and put me a little pan of fruit jar lead or something in there, and I'd make drip down lye. I'd make soap too,
Well,
I've done that whenever I was a kid.
That was play to you.
Oh, that was play. You see, I was by myself, as I said. I didn't have there was just one lived on a hill here and one over yonder, and way on over yonder wasn't thick settled, and there wasn't children to play with. You didn't know nothing about playing and having things, nothing like today by a long jump.
You'd build
and you just have to build me a playhouse, and play with broken dishes, with somewhere broke, something other they'd give you, and play like that, and so I played with dripping that lye down by myself, and made soap.
One lady told me that she had a nickel doll one time.
Well, I don't know. I had a lot of dolls when I was little. I don't know. I wouldn't doubt but what I had some too.
Yeah.
A Chinese head doll was what kind they had. I've had them, yes. Yeah. I wouldn't doubt but what they wouldn't cost more than a nickel in them days.
Well, what could you buy for a nickel now?
Well,
And I don't really see any parking meters that'll take nickels anymore.
No, nickels and dimes and things like that was
Takes
nothing.
a quarter to make a telephone call.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, it's just a great change in time.
Well, what did you like most in school? You said you didn't particularly like to go. Did they ever have any spelling bees?
Yes, I never was too good a hand to spell, but I don't know. I guess I like that about as well as anything. But I just never did like to go to school somehow.
Well, now they always had recess, and you played a number of games there. Do you remember any of those?
Oh yes, we'd play hopscotch. Draw a ring around. Hopscotch, and but the biggest thing I think of that I played, me and my girlfriends, was a playhouse. We'd build us a playhouse at school, but of course we'd just get started till the bell would ring, and we'd have to go back to the house, but we'd finally get us a playhouse built. And we'd generally play in a playhouse out in the woods, to the edge there by the school ground,
Did you ever make a mud pie?
Oh, yes. So we made mud pies and mud biscuits, Yeah. Yeah, I went through all kinds of
thinking of home.
Yes.
And the boys would have tops that they'd spin.
Yeah, and play ball a lot, Boys seemed like whenever best I remember about it, the boys played ball, a lot. And
Kind
I don't
of a
know.
baseball
Yeah,
game.
baseball, yeah.
Well, that's real good. Now, as you got a little older, did you ever get struck on anybody?
No, I don't know if I ever did.
You know what that means?
Yeah.
In the language of the time, you were falling in love.
Well, yes, gradually on, And
Well, now, you eventually married. I want you to tell me where you met this fellow.
well, I don't know hardly. I guess the first time I met him was up here at the Aurora schoolhouse after they made this. There was a high school up here when they first built the Aurora schoolhouse. There was
Now,
a
a
high
lot of
school.
people in this county don't know that. There was a high school at Aurora.
Yes, there was a high school when that schoolhouse was first built. A high school, and they had lots of fiddlers contest and different kinds of gatherings. And I think that one of them was the first time I met him.
Well, I interviewed a woman the other day, and I don't know whether this would happen to you or not, but she said we were Baptist.
Yeah.
And said my dad wouldn't let me go to a square dance.
Yeah.
So we went to play parties.
Oh, yes. I
And
went to them.
She laughed and she said a play party was about the same thing as a square dance, but we just called it by another name.
Yeah, it's on the same plan. Yes, yeah.
Now, you didn't want Brother Roberts to find out about that, did you?
No, I don't guess I did. Not that I didn't go to the dances, but now to the play parties. I went to them.
Yeah.
And wore the bottoms of my shoes out. A hole in the bottom of the sole of my
Yeah,
shoes.
you were moving around, but you weren't dancing.
I was
were you?
moving, but I wasn't dancing.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, yeah, maybe he won't hear this, you reckon?
Why, he can't get it, I don't suppose. We won't tell him when it's coming on.
No, maybe not.
Of course, John Mark may tell him.
Well, I don't believe he will.
All right, now, and you met this man there. Was he from this area?
Yes, he's born and raised on another hill, from where I was.
Now, where'd he go to school?
Well,
Grade school?
he went to school to
Tennessee Ridge.
Tennessee Ridge, another little one room schoolhouse, I'll say,
Jonestown settlement.
in what we call Jonestown.
I don't believe I ever heard of Tennessee Ridge before. And my dad went to a place called Johnson School.
Yes, that used to be back
Is
back
that
over here. Raymond, you
toward,
know where was the Johnson School?
Oh, it was back here, back across the creek from here.
toward Maple Spring and that.
Well, it was on back in the woods. Well, I'll tell you, did you ever know anything about a fellow by the name of Ben Gay used to run a store back there and kept a post office years ago?
I've heard that name.
Yeah, well, that schoolhouse was right in there, the Johnson Schoolhouse.
Mhm.
Right back on that.
Well, yes, I never did know exactly where it was at. Don't reckon I was ever there at the Johnson Schoolhouse, but I sort of knowed in the directions and neighborhood where it was at, you know.
I visited
But-
school over here at Unity. There was a school
Yeah.
there.
Yes, yeah.
You know, there were 55 one-room schools, I believe it was, in Marshall County, and many of them there was a school and a church together.
Yeah,
A Unity School and Unity Church right
Yeah.
side by side.
uh-huh. Well, that was the case down here.
Mhm.
See, there was two Union Ridge churches down here, a Methodist on one side of the road and Baptist on the other.
Mhm.
And when I went to school, in the revivals, they had weeks of revivals at each church, and our teachers would bring us one day or sometimes 2 days in the week to church, you know. And we had great revivals, and sometimes it was at 11 o'clock, and sometimes it'd be 2 o'clock whenever the teachers would get us back to the school.
The Supreme Court didn't say anything.
No, no.
Those were wonderful times.
Oh, they was wonderful days.
And when you opened school in the morning, did you pledge allegiance to the flag? And
No.
did you ever sing a song?
No, I don't think, I can't remember that. I don't believe we done that when I went to school.
Well, I went to Blakely, a one-room school, and we'd always open up by singing, "On Jordan's stormy banks I stand,
Yes.
cast a wistful eye."
Well, I just don't believe we opened that way. I can't remember none of the teachers at that time.
Sometimes we'd close off with, "There's a church in the valley by the wildwood, no lovelier spot in the dale."
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh,
The
yes.
Little brown church in the vale.
Yes, I remember that. But I don't know why that would have been appropriate to have done in them days, but I can't remember our teacher that I went way back there doing that.
Maybe
but that'd
none
been
of
way-
them could sing.
Well, they might not. I don't know.
All right, now let's see. We don't want to run out of time here. We
Well-
want you to tell some more tales. You met this fellow over at Aurora. How long did it take you to land him?
Well, I don't think it's too long. I can't remember just how long, but not
Did you
too
set
long.
your cap for him?
Oh, yeah, I guess I did.
You like to miss it.
Well, and you got married, and you've been with him ever since.
Yes,
How
I've been
long
with-
have you been married?
Well, I've been married 58 years.
Oh, you've passed the golden anniversary.
No, I had the golden anniversary.
Yeah. I say
yeah.
You've
Oh,
gone
yes,
beyond
yes,
that.
yes, done
So
went
you got
beyond that.
50 plus 8 more.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
that's right.
Were there any children to bless your family?
Well, one son and a great daughter-in-law. Yeah, and she's just like a daughter, not a daughter-in-law, but a daughter.
Is that the lady that's taking
That's her
care
right
of
there.
us now?
Yes, that's her, yes.
What's your son's
She's-
name?
Tommy Mathis,
Uh-huh.
and she's Judy.
Judy.
Yeah.
Who was she before she married?
Well, she was a Walker.
Walker.
Lowell and Zuli Walker's daughter.
Mhm.
Yeah, she lived up in Callaway.
Well, you know, the
And-
first white man that we know of English background that came to Kentucky was Dr. Thomas Walker in 1750, just before Daniel Boone.
Well,
And he built a cabin over in East Kentucky, which is fun to visit. So that Walker family,
yeah.
you can't get away from them, can you?
No, they're really talkers.
They'll
Yeah.
beat you there every time.
Yeah, they're wonderful people, we think.
Do you have any grandchildren?
No, don't have no grandchildren. Just the one son
Uh-huh.
and daughter-in-law,
Well,
which I'm greatly thankful for.
there's still time.
Oh, yes, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, now we got you married, and we got you with a son, and what did you do to make a living? Did you live all the years around here?
Yes, we've most of the time. Well, when we first married, we went to Detroit. Raymond already had a job in Detroit, and so then I got me a job, and we both stayed up there a while. But not too long after that, we come back, and then we've been farmers. We was farmers, and he was a livestock dealer a while, and I don't know, just mostly farmers. Oh, I guess I'd say. Yeah, I've raised lots of chickens and sold eggs 3 cents a dozen.
3 cents a dozen?
Yeah, 3 cents a dozen. I raised lots of chickens. I was a big hand to raise chickens, hatch off a big bunch of little chickens and take care of them. And then the next spring, well, they'd be grown, and I'd sell a bunch, and hatch me another bunch. And see, you had to, that's all the way you had to get much money, and then you didn't get much then. But of course, when you raised what you eat on the farm, you didn't have to buy so much like you do now when you have to buy it all, now.
Did you ever have a peddler come by the house?
Oh, yes, had many and many peddlers, yeah, many and many peddlers.
Could you trade eggs in and get a little more than you would selling them?
Well, I just didn't have nowhere else to sell them on it much to the peddlers. Well, of course, you could take them off to town. I mean, a big town of Hardin, where that used to be a big town in my days.
City.
Yeah, it was. And sometimes...
Railroad running through there.
Yes, it did. And, just most of the time I sold these eggs to the peddlers, And that's what you bought your sugar and coffee with, and soda and salt and soda, Go in your bread. You had to make bread then with salt and soda and so on, like
well,
people.
Before we run clear out of time, John Mark, you had a story that you wanted her to tell. Now you tell us what that was.
Okay. I want you to tell about the dove and your brothers.
And my granddaddy.
And your granddaddy.
Yeah.
That story.
Well, my granddaddy Jones, my daddy's daddy, he was sitting out in the yard one day, leant back against a tree reading. He was a great hand to read, and but grandmother had done passed away, and it was him and let's see, about 2 sisters and 4 brothers was living together. It was left, and he was sitting out there reading, and there's a dove come from the cemetery down towards the cemetery, lit on his head, and pulled out a hair and went back that away. And then in just a few minutes it come back, and it pulled another hair out and went back, and it come the 3rd time. And he got up and went in the house, and he told his children, says there's going to be 3 deaths in the family, and soon. And for he told them about the dove coming and going back to the cemetery. And so that happened. He was the first. He was the first taken. Just not long after that, he took sick and died, and they had what they called typhoid fever then. I don't know if he had typhoid fever, but I guess he did. But that's what the other children had. A daughter died first, and then a son, and right just in a month's time. And so my daddy had it, but he was one that got well, and maybe a sister that lived had it. And so that was a sign, what I call a sign, and he said he was warned, of them death, and which I think was. Yeah.
A very unusual story.
Yes, it is.
Well,
yes,
of course,
but,
I remember the story in the Bible about Noah sending out a dove.
Yes, I know it.
Find if the water had gone back down again.
Well, now this was a dove, and I've got a picture here that somebody, I don't know, I can't remember who, my daddy said fix the picture for him and give it to him. It's got a big white dove painted on it, and then it's got these deaths, and they're just in a month apart, my granddaddy and then my aunt and my uncle then. There's deaths on it, He's told me, but I can't remember who it
Now, I see you have a picture here showing a man sitting on a big pile of rolled up ice that appears to be maybe the Tennessee River. Who is that?
Well, that's Reese Mitchell.
Well, where in the world did that much ice come from?
Well, that kind of melted after the river froze over solid, you know. Then it comes all the warm spell, and it's
Was
hot.
that 1917?
19 and 17, yes. And it sort of loosened up, you know, and chugged up and made them big pieces of ice. And he walked that way out, I think they said, about middle ways of the river and set up on that ice, and somebody made his picture.
Boy, I don't know if I'd wanted to tried that.
No, I don't think I would either. But before it melted and chugged up that way, I think there was a man or two walked across it, I heard.
I heard my father say once that there was a person, I can't remember the name, who drove a team of mules and a wagon across.
It. Well,
I heard that too.
seemed to me like I've heard that since you named it, but I don't know who it was.
Somebody did, but I don't know who it was.
Now that's real cold weather.
Now that's cold weather.
I
yes.
can remember 77, 78, and that's cold enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that was cold weather then. Yeah, but I seen that river. I went, as I was telling you, on the sleigh with some folks, and seen that river when it
Well, do
froze
you
over.
have any final story you'd like to tell? We've only got about another minute.
Well, no, I guess that'll be about all. I don't know. I could talk a long time, you know, but I guess that's
You're a very good